Content was independently created by She Media with funding from Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corp. Anna is a paid Novartis spokesperson, but she has not been compensated for this podcast, and the views presented are her own. Flow. It's that feeling when you are totally locked in. It's intense focus and engagement in an activity with a sense of effortless concentration, enjoyment, and a loss of self-consciousness. I'm Samantha, CEO of She Media, and this is Finding Flow. I am obsessed with the idea of flow because if we can learn to harness that feeling, it can do so much for us. It can bring us joy, purpose, peace. It can help us to own our present when we find our flow. We're going to talk to people from all walks of life and unpack what anchors them in the present. How do they find that flow space, even when life is hard, and what do they create while they are in flow? We all find moments of flow. It's when we are completely immersed in an activity, one that is simultaneously challenging and enjoyable enough that we lose track of time. The feeling is different for everyone, but life-changing once you discover it. With this podcast, we want you to find your flow. Our first few episodes of Finding Flow consist of a special series called This Moment Belongs to Me. We focus on a group of people who find themselves in an especially challenging position. I'm talking about breast cancer patients, women who are navigating all that life throws at them while also handling this diagnosis. And these women must readjust to what every woman navigates, inner and outer strength. Which leads me to our incredible guest who's going to walk us through her flow moment in the face of her breast cancer diagnosis and strength journey. Anna Crollman was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 27. She learned how to set clear emotional boundaries while going through her treatment and healing process. She has redefined what inner and outer strength mean to her body and mind post-diagnosis. I loved talking to Anna because she's not only incredibly engaging, optimistic. This mix of emotional strife can only be described as otherworldly, and her incredible tenacity, her inner, her outer strength that got her through are truly inspiring. Anna, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for joining me on Finding Flow. It's one of my favorite things I get to do. And I am thrilled that you're willing to share your story with us, both your pre-diagnosis experience, your diagnosis, and then all of the wonder of post-diagnosis and treatment, because yours is a pretty magical path. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your life before you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It has been so fun already this morning, so I'm glad we get to have this whole conversation. But me before breast cancer, I mean, it's hard now looking back because it's been 10 years, but I think she was a very naive girl, out just kind of new in my career, trying to figure out what I wanted out of life, like what was going to be fulfilling. And I really thought that family was going to be the biggest part of my life. And then kind of bam, this cancer diagnosis hit in the midst.
And how did it, tell me what was the moment? How did it hit you? Were you with the doctor by yourself? Were you suspicious that you might be harboring something as terrifying as cancer within your body?
Not at all. Sam, I was the healthiest I had ever been in my whole life. I was doing all the things, right? I was vegan. I was drinking juice. I was non-dairy, no sugar. I'd been cutting out all these things from my diet.
So joyless.
It was so joyless. It was so joyless. I had been having some really horrible
hormonal.
I had been having some very bad hormonal acne after going off birth control for the first time in my life. And I had been doing this whole like elimination diet. So I was very, clean eating, as they called it back then, exercising every day, drinking tons of water. But the one thing in my life that now looking back, I think may have been a red flag was the amount of stress in my life. The just unchecked stress and anxiety that I was living with every single day, just existing and not really dealing with. And we actually were trying to start a family. We had gone off birth control. We were like, yes, 1 year married. We're going to do this. You know, you think it's easy. And then we sold our house too quickly. We're living with my mother-in-law at the time.
That sounds super fun. That's a life
And we
goal.
were like, this is not what we had planned.
Nope,
this
that's
is
not the version.
romantic, like intimate make a baby.
Right.
So that was all kind of on pause. And one Friday night I was in the shower and I found a lump in my breast. Of course it's a Friday where you cannot call anyone.
Okay.
You have no idea what to do. So I'm just panicking all weekend.
That's chill inducing, the idea that something alien is in your body. How did that change the way, or how did that impact over time the way you think about your body?
Well, I think especially, you know, in a culture where we are so heavily focused on wellness trends or the exterior wellness indicators, it was very shocking to think I'm doing all of the things to be healthy.
Right.
But I'm actually, something's trying to kill me inside my body. And so I think over time, that has really just shifted the way that I think about health and the way that I question my body or question, am I taking care of my body? And realizing that it's not always just the habits that we have. It's also, you know, things that we don't know that are happening in our body and risk factors, and just being a lot more mindful of the science of cancer and better understanding cancer itself. And then also not feeling guilty, like that I didn't do something.
Did you feel
to
guilty?
cause the
Was that a
cancer.
feeling?
Yeah, I think you feel like, could I have avoided this? Or is there something that I did to cause
Like some hair
this?
product or
Yeah, you
some,
just start
yeah.
questioning, because I think you want answers. You want to understand, why am I a healthy 27-year-old that got cancer?
And you had no history that you knew of.
I didn't know of any history. I later found out my grandmother had breast cancer, but much later in life, in her 50s and 60s, which my doctor said doesn't technically present the same as a 27-year-old. So yeah, no family history, no, you know, risk factors that I knew about. And so to suddenly be diagnosed, you feel betrayed by your body.
Just like, why is this fair? Like, it's not fair. So tell me about your mental well-being. You said you were very stressed prior. You were trying to have a baby. You were living with your, God bless you up and down, that you were living with your mother-in-law while trying to make a baby, which is just like, yeah, those things don't go together for me. And 1 year married, how was your mental well-being?
Not great. It was probably at the worst it had ever been. I mean, I consider myself a very lucky person that I didn't go through trauma as a child. I think so many people have. And so I experienced most of life coasting, not in the sense that I didn't work for the things that I achieved in life, but I was happy and healthy and, you know, why should I be stressed? But I think I had undiagnosed anxiety for a really long time. And then going through cancer, it was very acutely aware of like, okay, something is going on with my mental health and I need to figure something out now. And so for me, really dealing with my mental health I was so glad that I had a care team that recognized that.
So how did you think about your body before? I mean, I'm sure it's not like a stark before and after, but we talked a bit about like any surgery. I think I contemplate, many do, probably that piece of your body differently. How were you attached to your, I mean, we're all attached to our breasts. Were your breasts playing a big part of your physical presentation or physical identity?
Yes. I think that was one of the things that was really hard for me. I was the early bloomer in middle school. I had like C boobs since 6th grade and got made fun of about it and was like sexualized, you know, from an early age. And so I think that was just a huge part of my identity. And so then being like, what do you mean? Like, yes, these breasts have been annoying because they're large and I have to deal with them, but also these are mine. And now looking back, I am so glad I took a picture of them like right before the surgery.
Right.
You know, and they're kind of saggy because they were big and like, you know, it's not like it's like this glamorous photo,
Sure.
but to me, it is really special
Mm-hmm.
to be able to just look back and be like, yeah, that was a body that I definitely didn't love enough,
Mm-hmm.
that I definitely didn't appreciate enough. And now, like, these boobs got to be,
Yeah.
you know, got to go bye-bye. But it's just, yeah, I do kind of see this like before and after of how I see my body. And it's just completely different now.
Your personal agency, personal strength is evident in everything you describe. It's really inspiring. Are you, when you contemplate the after, if you will, moving straight into, it sounds like IVF after
Mhm.
first surgery, how did you just have, you know, have sort of laser vision on the future? How did you keep it together?
Whew. Yeah, that, you know, it's looking back, it's almost hard to even understand how I did
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much going on mentally. I think one thing for me was I really just, it was one step in front of the next. I mean, I know that is a little bit cliche, but it's true that when you are like facing something really horrific, I couldn't even look past the next week.
Right.
It was, how am I going to get through today?
Right.
How am I going to manage my pain today? We moved a day after my surgery because we were living at my mother-in-law's. I desperately wanted to get in my own space.
Yes.
I said, whatever it takes, I need to get in my own space so that I can have a clear head, so that I can have a safe space
Mm-hmm.
that's just mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that was really just every day, like, okay, what do I have to get accomplished today?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually when I started writing, because I had taken off work for the surgeries. And back in middle school, you know, I had done creative writing. In high school, I wrote here and there, but nothing much. And I remembered that it had been very therapeutic for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned to that right after the surgery as like a way to process
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of what I was going through. Like, let me just get thoughts to paper. I was a consumer.
Right.
I was a consumer
Love
of
that.
blogs. I was a consumer of Pinterest, loved all of it, you know,
Mhm.
loved the fashion and the beauty and like the makeup tutorials on YouTube. But girlfriends had encouraged me to start a blog. And I was like, oh no, I'm too nervous. Like,
Mhm.
who wants to hear what I have to say
Right.
type of thing. And then I'm diagnosed and I'm like, well, there's my niche.
Yeah.
It's cancer.
Wow.
Exactly. So it all really just happened from that because I thought if I'm looking for these stories of hope and what it's like to go through cancer as a young adult, then there's got to be other people
Yeah.
out there. But I
And you
couldn't
weren't
find it.
finding that. Yeah, you
I
weren't
wasn't
finding it. Right.
it. And now I feel so lucky to share this space with so many other, you know, amazing women and men that are sharing their cancer stories at a young age. But in 2015, it either wasn't out there as much or it wasn't as findable. I started sharing just as, like I said, an outlet, a therapeutic way to process what I was going through and hopefully fill a void for other people that were going through that. And I think the gift that I got was then finding community,
Right.
which I think for so many people that are going through cancer or divorce or something traumatic in their lives, finding a community can be a lifeline because you suddenly feel like you are not the only soul in the world going through this horrible thing.
And it sounds like your partner, although we haven't spoken much about this, but the partnership you have seems incredibly supportive, dare I say?
Yes.
And as primary caregiver, I'm not sure if that was the setup.
Yeah.
How did you communicate through your partner to all these people who cared about you? The problem about being a lovely, dynamic person is you probably had quite a few people who cared about your well-being. That's the thing about, you know, putting yourself out there so generously. So how did you communicate with this web of humans who cared so much about your well-being?
This web of humans that care so much about your well-being. I love that.
Thank you.
Like just that phrasing, really, like I'm going to hold on to that because even like now, right? If you have a web of humans that care about your well-being, what a gift.
It is.
He is a gem. His name's Mac. and he hates to be on social media. So he will never be seen on social media. He's behind the scenes only. He and I actually had what I like to call an all-star plan for our communication approach during cancer.
Tell us.
And that was, we actually wrote a blog post on it called The PR of Cancer Communication.
PR, like you became like the
We were
writer, the
literally,
publicist.
it was like,
right.
what are we going to communicate? Because I think the one thing that was our gift going into cancer is that we were very open communicators. And so him and I were like 100%, we're in this together, team, A team, let's go. And so we decided from the very beginning, who are our point people going to be in each family? We chose the moms.
Okay.
It was like, okay,
Yep,
each
yep,
mom,
yep.
you're in charge. We are no longer communicating with anyone else in the family.
There's no aunts and uncles.
There was,
and cousins.
it was like,
yeah.
because it just, when you're going through something really difficult, it can be so hard to field the questions.
Right.
And everyone means well. They're checking in. But when you check in and you're asking a question and you've repeated the same answer 25 times, you're about to pull your hair out, if it hasn't already fallen out. So it's like you're literally losing your mind. So we essentially would write up these like briefs of what we were comfortable sharing with our family. And it, like particularly the IVF stuff, we would say, this is where Anna's at. This is what the diagnosis is. Here's the next step. This is what we're comfortable sharing.
Right.
This is not open for discussion.
Right. Don't ask it for how it's going at 5 weeks.
Yeah.
When you're
Don't
not
ask.
sure it's gonna.
Yeah. And then we would say, like, here's things you can do to help. Because it was like, I knew people wanted to help.
Right.
So here's something you can do. You can send cards. I love snail mail. Like you can send a lovely note. You can send funny memes. You can, send things.
That's great.
So
it was like really things that people could. I think that giving your loved ones something to do is also a gift. I mean, letting them participate in it without doing that. It is such a conundrum as we, as we build our networks and friendships and families that you want them to know how much you care, but you don't want to give them another job to like respond or make me feel okay as your cousin or as your, and it's tricky. I love that you are promoting that. We will share it as well. Like that you're promoting a plan that is, maybe has some humor in it, but also has a really serious objective, And how did they take that? Were people still trying to skirt the...
Honestly, I felt so lucky that people listened to what we wanted. And I know not everybody is going to have that experience. People would still text here and there.
Sure.
And honestly, I loved the text to just say, hey, I'm thinking about you.
Sure.
But it took the weight off my chest to feel like I had to be the one communicating.
Right.
People were really, really kind and supportive and helpful.
That's great.
And I think giving people specifics of how they could help and what they could do just really allowed people to still be involved.
It's awesome.
And with the blog, I had just started the blog, so a lot of family, it was really just my family reading it at the beginning, but they would share it like with a random uncle or a friend that had been diagnosed. And so to me, that was special too, because that was a way they could support.
Sure.
Take what I'm writing on my terms. And writing for me also gave me that space so that I didn't have to react to anybody else's emotions. I could write in a space for me and process what I was going through, and then it could be shared at a time when I was ready. And then I could deal with the responses.
So you'd said that you were in great shape. You were eating all the right foods, et cetera, when you were diagnosed. How has your consideration of fitness evolved, changed since the diagnosis?
I think the way that I look at fitness is different. I think like many of us, I was always chasing skinny before. Like there was this sense of like, you're only worthy if you weigh a certain amount. And so all of my fitness and eating was all in pursuit of that, which I think after cancer, and it's taken me a long time to get there, my physical activity is now to take care of this wonderful body that I have.
Right.
It is, I want this body to be around for, another 60 years so that I can live and enjoy this beautiful life. And so now, I walk a lot, I do Pilates, but it's much more in service to my body versus kind of this punishing exercise. Before I was diagnosed, I was so fit and just like had great endurance that it was very shocking to go through treatment and then lose so much of my strength and so much of my ability to exercise. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from my doctor was to modify the length of what you can do. So instead of trying to work out and do, an hour-long Pilates class and an hour-long walk, it might just be 5 minutes. And he was like, don't be discouraged. If it's 5 minutes, it's still 5 minutes of something. And so I remember we got this horribly busted up recumbent bike off a Facebook Marketplace right before treatment. I mean, it had a crack in the seat. But you know what? On those worst days when I was just really struggling mentally, I would go out there and I would just pedal for 5 minutes.
Good for you.
And, I would just feel like death. And I was like, I'm never going to feel any better. I'm so bummed. Like, am I ever going to have my strength back? But just that little 5 minutes, made me feel like, okay, I'm doing something for myself. And then I would essentially like have a little exercise menu where it was like on weeks that I felt better, okay, you can go for a 30-minute walk, or you can like maybe do some personal training where I was, working on physical therapy for range of movement or things. And then some weeks it was the 5 minutes. And so just feeling like, okay, I can tailor the fitness to whatever I'm in that moment, and that's okay. It's still fitness.
That's great. And I think we do give ourselves these incredibly, these walls to working out. It's like, I must have this and the right attire and the right equipment instead of just walk. I love the integrated approach, and that you're not giving yourself excuses not to do something. You're more giving yourself permission to do the right amount, it sounds like. And
I think I learned something from a coach last year that it was like, find joyful movement. If the movement you're doing does not bring you joy, you're punishing yourself. So pick something that's going to bring you joy.
And you said that earlier, it's not punishment, it's joy-inducing. You were already dealing with so many hard things. You must have had to find some kind of space mentally and physically for yourself. So I am wondering, when in the process of treatment, when and how you found that flow space for yourself.
I think for me, my finding flow space is really when I'm creating. At the time of diagnosis and going through treatment, it was writing. Like, that was my creative space. I would just get in the zone and I would be writing, and I would spend my days in my chemo chair with my little computer just like typing away, and that, like, I could just lose myself in that. And then it also was this therapeutic. I mean, sometimes over the years it's been a painting, or now that I'm on social media and do all this creating stuff for both my day job with Cake's Body, like sometimes it's doing interviews, or it's creating a video or brainstorming different things. So it's any kind of creating when I can fully get into it and just like tune out the outside world. That's when I really just feel that sense of fulfillment.
That's great. Visit www.theflowspace.com/p/this-belongs-to-me to explore other episodes in our breast cancer series and to meet the inspiring women who share how they found flow after a breast cancer diagnosis. Now we turn to our guest expert, Jenna Wolfe, who is a journalist, television host, author, and fitness and health expert. Jenna was diagnosed with the BRCA gene and proactively underwent a double mastectomy and hysterectomy. She's going to break down how to regain physical and emotional strength after a diagnosis. So I really liked talking to Jenna Wolfe because she's a beast, and she gave a lot of super actionable advice that I will be taking home with me, and I will be endeavoring to integrate into my life. She talked about making decisions more quickly, especially when it's essentially yes or no, because it's 50-50, and you can eliminate the stress of the decision making process and deal with what you're doing post decision. I love that because a lot of the negative juice I might experience personally is around what's the right decision. She really exhibits that in her lifestyle as well. Another idea that she had and that she deploys with many of her clients is to find something they love, whether it's reading or creating or playing tennis or picking up your kids from school. Take something you love and then give it a little shot of exercise, a little shot of fitness. Sounds weird, but you'll hear how she does that and how she advises others. And then I'd say if anyone can create a worldview that integrates mind and body, but recognizes the struggle and sort of accepts the struggle and even celebrates the struggle, it is this woman. So I think we all took away a lot, whether you are undergoing something very challenging with your own health or experiencing career or personal or family challenges. I think Jenna's someone you should listen to. Jenna, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
When faced with BRCA gene, it seems like your resolution and conviction was unusually strong.
So 2 times in my life, I came to, I guess, what you would call a crossroads where, a sliding door situation where you could go one way. Your life might be different than if you choose to go through the other door, and your life would then be different. The first time was when I came out, and I chose to do that with conviction, knowing that this is my life and my story, and I'm going to tell it the way I want to, and however else people want to live their life and play off their timeline. That's great. And I chose to come out, and I'm very happy with the decision. The second time was when the day I got the phone call, my mom had just gone through stage 3 breast and lymph node cancer. I shortly thereafter got the phone call from my mom. So apologetic. I'm so sorry. I have to tell you this. She walks around with such guilt, which I think immediately made me feel like I had this ability to conquer it. So, hey, don't worry. I got this. So it was a call that said I tested positive for the BRCA1, the BRCA gene. And it was explained to me. And I said, okay, let's get through that. What are my options? And I sat down with a breast surgeon that week, and the options, they ran the numbers, which is, this is the percentage. This is your, the percentage of the chances of you getting breast cancer. This is the chances of you getting ovarian cancer. I said, can you read that back to me again? Because it sounded like you said, 46%. She said, yeah, you're at 46%. I said, I'm walking around with like a 1 in 2 chance of getting breast cancer.
Wow.
She said, yes. I said, sign me up. And I said, when's the first time I can get in with a surgeon? So I did a full hysterectomy back to back with a double mastectomy. I was not going to have kids anymore. I was, 49, 50 years old. And I chose very quickly, right? So when making decisions in life, what you need to be okay with, if you're literally at 50-50 back and forth with two things, which you said sometimes you have a hard time with, just pick one. So I said, without a doubt, let's go. I was in perfect shape. I'll tell you that. I work out, every
How old
day
were
of
you?
the week. I was 49, 50.
Okay.
I was 49. So I was in surgery for a full hysterectomy 3 weeks later. Wow. And then a couple weeks later, I had the mastectomy. Now, as I was saying, great shape. I had no issues. I eat clean. I work out. I lift. I do all the things you're supposed to do. I'm in perfect shape. And there is zero correlation between this shape, at least in my opinion, between the shape you're in and how your body will respond to surgery. I was way off. I mean, I thought I had it in the bag. And in total, and we could talk about it if you want to, but all in all, I had setbacks along the way. For each stage I had 3 surgeries in a year, but I was back in the hospital in and out all year. The place where I feel most comfortable and in my own zone where nobody could bother me and I'm my happiest is when I'm in that deep, some people call it pain, I call it pleasure, of working out and of watching my body sweat. When my body sweats, it's saying like, hey, we're working for you. Like I love it. I live for it. And I couldn't do it at all. Oh. It was 5 weeks after every surgical procedure. And on like that day of of that 5 weeks, I would do what my doctor would allow me to do. And then there'd be a setback and I'd have to wait 5 more weeks.
Oh my God. How did you manage your mental well-being during that time?
It was really hard. And for the first couple times, I didn't know what to do. And for anyone going through it, that I know there aren't many people that have that same. There are people that are obsessed, not obsessed, but I would say that crave.
Oh yeah,
working out and feeling
absolutely,
good about it.
absolutely, yeah.
For those people, what I did was I would go through all the motions of getting ready to work out, but then not actually working out, right? So I couldn't wear a bra. Obviously, I was, we're bandaged up and the whole bit. But I put my sneakers on and I would walk to the gym and I would stand in my place and I would look in the mirror and I would breathe and I would kind of visualize what I would like to do. And at first it was, again, kind of cheesy and I looked ridiculous down in the gym doing this. And then after a while, that was the closest thing that I could do.
I think that's wonderful because you're keeping it in play. Like
You're keeping everything except the physical part of it.
Right.
Mentally, you're there.
Right.
You look in the mirror. You see yourself there.
Right.
You're physically in that space. My body wasn't going to let me do anything yet.
But I love the idea, when you can't write or you're feeling not artistic or don't want to be working in the office, for example, I think we become very avoidant of those spaces.
Put yourself in the space.
Yeah, but I think put yourself in the space literally and not just in your mind is a really cool hack. Like that's a really interesting way to just to take some power out of that.
But be patient with yourself. That did not work for me. I went down. I said, this is ridiculous. Oh, if anything, it's making me want it more. But after I did it for a little while, I kept fresh.
And what are your major tips for women over 50?
So what I would say to someone who's just getting into it is, what do you love doing? I don't care what it is. Pick literally any activity that you just love doing, or let's say don't hate doing if you're really starting from scratch.
Sad life.
Is it walking? Is it being in the pool? Is it playing pickleball? I don't care what it is. So when I start with a client, I'll say, all right, let's go to the place of the activity that you absolutely love to do. And every day I will build something of mine into something of yours.
That's rad.
Now you're going to get there. So what's going to get you there? You love doing it. Now I'm going to, while you're in that space that you like, I'm going to give you something you can do to make that just a little bit better. Okay, you like walking? Okay, so every 5 minutes, I'm going to start very basic. I'm going to make you do 10 squats.
Right.
So now I've got you there. But if I said to you, we're going to do bis, and then we're going to do some triceps, and we're going to do back, then we're going to do some shoulders. I want you to lift 10 to 15 pounds. We'll get there. You're not going to get there overnight.
Okay, so Anna, having gotten to know her a bit and hearing from her, what would you have given her, looking at what she loves? Like, what would be an idea? I know that's on the spot, but
you mean to get her into physical
yeah, like
activity?
what would you have added on to her?
Oh, very easily.
Yeah.
She's creative. She loves to write. She obviously is wonderful with words, and she loves words. So I would incorporate what she loves into what I love. So we would start with okay, so I would say sit down on a chair. I would say this is literally off the top of my head.
I know. I just put you.
I'd say, okay, I want how many words? First of all, take 1 minute, 60 seconds to come up with how many words can you come up with that start with the letter S, that are at least 3-syllable words, and say she comes up with 15 squats right now. So I want you to stand up and sit down 15 times. Oh, good, that's interesting. Now let's play off that, okay? I'd say come up with, I would make her think.
I love
so that the physicality comes with it. Give me 10 boys' names that start with R. So now her mind is like, okay, boys' names, like thinking about kids. We talked about IVF. I know she likes kids. Okay, so get on your knees in a plank, and we're going to hold as many seconds as it takes you to come up with those names. But I'll play around with it.
So she's in the plank and coming up with it. I love that.
Coming up with the names. So now her mind, it's a distraction. And the thing that keeps her grounded is her passion for words, and the thing that's me pushing her out of her comfort zone, because at the end of the day, we're never going to grow if we're comfortable. So you first of all have to say, hey, here's my trust. I'm going to let you hold on to it.
Right.
Please give it back to me when we're done. I'm going to hold it and say, okay, you trust me? I promise you I will give this back when we're done. You're going to get uncomfortable, but the minute we're done, you get comfortable again.
Wow.
So get uncomfortable momentarily, and then you're going to have it back. You love words? We're going to play with words. I will make it as basic as it is. You just have to show up. When I start with someone, you give me 90, or you give me 10, I give you 90. A couple weeks in, you give me, whatever it is, 30, I give you 70. Eventually it's 50-50. And then soon it's, 90-10, and you don't need me anymore, and you're on your own.
It's really cool. And it's clear that you're not just a trainer of fitness, you're a trainer of how to think, which you mentioned earlier. Was how do how do you train your mind? It's theoretically yours.
Yeah,
mine
theoretically.
mine seems to belong to whatever it distracts it. But I love that you're also, because that's a big present tense focus driver, what you're describing.
Connect them.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're thinking about
disconnect your mind. It has to be connected. Otherwise, you're never going to be productive.
So you slay the physical. You manage the mental. It seems quite clear. How do we connect those two?
You said it perfectly. You absolutely nailed it, which is for me, I slay the physical and I manage the mental, right? I have not slayed the mental and I don't just manage the physical because like as we talk about, I feel like I have far more control over the physical and far less control over the mental, and bridging the two, connecting the two is really, really hard. It's hard for me and I do it a lot, and it's hard for a lot of people. And there's no one answer. And as if there was, I'd bottle it and sell it. It's a lot of staying present. It's a lot of deep breathing through the anxiety. It's a lot of when you're in that, so say I'm working out and it's really hard and I want to quit, right? It's a lot of, like, let's just count it out. Like, you can do this. We've done it before. You've been in this space before. It's not going to last forever. Let's get through this moment. So I do a lot of counting. I count reps. I count how long I'm going to be in something. I'm very bad getting my blood drawn. It's a really tough time for me, and I have a really hard time with it. And so I had to bring in this mental aspect of it, which was just counting down, because I know it can't last forever. So I'll say, how long is this going to be? Counting down through uncomfortable situations has really helped me. It takes my mind off what I'm doing. So if I am doing an exercise, which is brutal, counting the whole time. Okay. I'm holding in a plank. I can hold for 10 seconds if I'm counting down, because I know that there's an end in sight. Right. I think where people get lost is when they lose the count, and now there's no end in sight, and now the pain is open-ended, and the discomfort is just huge, and it's falling and it's spilling and it's all over the floor. Rein it in, count yourself down. And if it's hard, give yourself 30 seconds of being uncomfortable, because anyone can do anything for 30 seconds, blah, 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 blah. Count it down. And when you hit 1, you can stop.
Okay.
And if it's 30, then it's a minute. And if it's a minute, maybe it's 2 minutes. And now all of a sudden, those are controlled situations. Now all of a sudden, you're in an uncontrolled situation where things are out of hand. You're under a lot of stress. You really need to have both connected. Now you already got used to counting down. Count down in blocks of like 30. Okay, let me get through the next 30 seconds. 24, 23, 22. Now all of a sudden, my mind is somewhere else. I'm not focused. My mind is somewhere else. I'm not focused on the pain. I'm not focused on the outcome. I'm focused just on counting down, and it matches whatever I'm doing physically.
I feel like there's a jiu-jitsu you've learned to do in your head, maybe, that is probably practiced, but I think that making yourself go through the pain must be sharpening that muscle all the time.
I dare you to knock me over.
I'm not going to try, dude. I'm definitely not going to try, because I agree with you.
To knock me over emotionally, I dare you to knock me over physically. But every time something deviates from the plan is an opportunity for you to get stronger, faster, grow, a pair, if you will, and tackle life a little bit better. And that's where real growth comes in, when you deviate from the plan and you have to deal with what's right in front of you. And so even though it's not always comfortable, I've gotten stronger. Like, every day that you don't knock me down is a win for me. And I've had my tough days. I've had my bleak days. I've been in therapy. I've done all the things that everyone does. But I'm not gonna stay down for long, because my base is up above water, and it has to be. And I have to be strong for myself, so that I can be strong for my kids, so that I can be strong for my clients. So it's like a domino effect, and it has to start with me.
I like it, man. Where in this whole matrix do you most accessibly find flow?
I find flow when I am working so hard that I am physically knocked down as a result of it. It could come from doing a very intense interview with someone where you are so zoned in and keyed in that you are just blinders on, and you're in that space where it's my question and your answer, and my question and your answer, and we're so intense that nobody could penetrate the conversation. When I have to work so hard that when we're done, do you remember that feeling when you were younger? and you finished, I remember this, when you finished either the SATs or AP classes, or you finally finished your last final, and you had stacks and stacks of notes and books and everything you brought to school that day, and everything, you needed every single piece of it, and every word was so important. And the minute that test was done, it was like someone lifted like heavy weight off your shoulder, and you threw those notes away, and you were like, I just worked so hard. Like that, those 5 minutes of that
Beauty.
euphoric lightness, it lasts, it's very brief. It's about, from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, but it is the most euphoric form of light you can possibly imagine. And you can't orchestrate that. You can't manipulate that. It only comes because you put the work in. I can't say, oh, let me show you what it is. For me, that is the ultimate flow. And it comes because you've given 100%, right? You can't manufacture that.
No.
You have to actually be in the trenches, give it whatever your flow is, like whatever your heart is, do that heart at 100%, and then breathe for like 30 seconds afterwards. And that to me is,
I love that. As we've heard, the stories about inner and outer strength from our two guests have given us a lot to think about. Every person, every patient is different, so please be sure to talk to your own doctor before embarking on any new treatments or fitness routines. Hopefully, if you or a loved one find yourself in a similar situation, our conversation has given you some ideas for what you might ask your healthcare provider. For more content about breast cancer, visit This Moment Belongs to Me special series on www.theflowspace.com/p/this-belongs-to-me. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, or YouTube. I'm your host, Samantha Ski. Our producers are Adrian Bain and Allie O'Connell. Our editor is Edie Allard. Our talent coordinators are Brittany Roden and Caitlin Corkery. Our project manager is Leanne Luong. Head of Advertiser Services is Erica Kirshner. Our designers are Laura Kavanaugh and Kaylin Johnson. Hair and makeup, if you were watching on video, The Glam Squad. Our executive producers are Jennifer Denton and Susan Getgood.
Content was independently created by She Media with funding from Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corp. Anna is a paid Novartis spokesperson, but she has not been compensated for this podcast, and the views presented are her own.